And hello everyone, welcome back to another nim tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll be taking a look at loops, specifically the while loop. Now, a loop is a piece of code that will execute over and over and over and over again until a condition is met. A while loop specifically is very popular for being able to create infinite loops, which is a loop that never ever stops. As an example, let's create our first while loop. While true, do, and we can just say echo I loop. If we were to run this piece of code, we'll get an infinite amount of these I loops and your CPU will die of exhaustion. Now we can actually specify when it should stop. As an example, variable x is equal to 20. And we can say while x is more than 10. So we can pass a condition in here because this while loop will not execute if this condition is false. So we're saying while x is less or more than 10, which in this case it is because x is 20, run this loop. So now we can actually echo out x, but if we leave it like this, it will give us an infinite loop. We need to decrease the value that x is. You have a couple of ways you can do this. You can say x is equal to x minus 1, and if you were to do this and run it, you'll get 19 all the way to 10. Or you could say x minus equals 1. This will do the exact same thing. Or you could say, instead of that, you can just say dec. That means decrease x by 1. In some other languages, you can actually have x minus minus, but in them we use this. Now if you run it, we'll get the exact same thing. Once x is no longer more than 10, it stops the execution. So this while loop will only run while this condition is true. And for this you can also have inc x if you want to add 1 to it. So let's flip this and make x 1. Now it will work the other way around. So while x is less than 10, which it is, increase x by 1 and then echo out the value of x. Let's go back to our previous example. Now here we also have two things we can use, continue and break. Let's say if x is equal to 15, we continue. This will skip an iteration of this loop. So if this continue is hit, it will skip everything after it. This means this decrement x should never be after this continue, because otherwise it will never be decremented again. It will just go to 15 and then infinite loop. But if it's like this, then it will decrease it. If it reaches this continue, it will skip this output section here or anything that's after this continue, and it will go to the next iteration of the loop. So if you run this, we'll not get 15 anymore. So here we get 15. If we run it, we don't get 15 anymore because we skipped everything after this continue once x was 15. That includes this echo x. And then finally, we also have break. So here we could actually say, if x is equal to 12, break. Break will stop a loop. It will break out of a loop. So it will make sure that we actually stop the loop. So once break hits, nothing after it will be executed. So you can actually go echo running here. Nothing after break will be executed. And if break is hit, the entire while loop will stop. So you can actually go here and say echo start, echo end. And if you run this, we get start 19 running, 18 running all the way, and we skip 15, because remember, we continue, all the way to 12, and then we get end. Where if we weren't to include that break, it will go all the way down to 10, and then end. This also means we could say true here. Because while true, it can run this loop, but as soon as x is 12, it will break out. So let's go here. As you can see, now it works. the same way. This is now 12, but we could of course make it 10. And that's the basics of a while loop. All it does is execute code multiple times over and over and over again until this condition is either false or it hits a breaking point in the code, like here, where we break out of this loop. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you all again in the next Nim tutorial.